Hello and welcome everyone to IPMAT Rohtak 2022 analysis session. The exam was conducted today, that is June 26, 2022 in the 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. slot. Let us quickly have an overview of the paper pattern and the exam structure before we go ahead to the actual analysis of the paper. So the paper pattern IPMAT Rohtak 2022 has three sections, namely quantitative aptitude, verbal ability, and logical reasoning. The total 120 questions are spread equally across the three sections, that is 40 questions in each section. The total duration of the paper is 120 minutes. However, there is no restriction on spreading the time across the three sections. So one could have assigned the time to each section as per their desire. The marking scheme for the paper is 4 for every correct answer and -1 for every incorrect answer. There is no marks awarded for unattempted questions. Moving on, let us quickly have an overview of the paper that was conducted today. However, before we go ahead, I would just like to give you a disclaimer that this is just the first impression based on the feedback that we receive from our students and others and everyone else who passes on the feedback to us. A detailed analysis would be made available in the due course of time. So the first overview, the first impression of the paper was that it was an easy to moderate paper, level of difficulty paper. If you look at the quantitative aptitude section, there were 40 questions and the level of difficulty was kind of easy. The questions were straightforward and good attempts would be around 32 to 35 with a good score of 95 to 105 marks. Likewise, the logical reasoning section was easy. However, there were slightly lengthy questions which made the overall level of difficulty easy to moderate. Good attempts would be 30 to 32 and one could have achieved a score of 90 to 100 within these attempts. The verbal ability section was also easy to moderate. There were quite a few straightforward, easy questions in terms of parajumbles and RCs. However, because of the presence of a lot of vocabulary questions, the level of difficulty became easy to moderate. Good attempts would be around 30 to 32 and a good score would be around 90 to 100 marks. Overall, the paper was easy to moderate difficulty level. One could have achieved an attempt number and a 90 to 100 attempts with a very good, decent accuracy and easily scored 285 plus to have a fair chance at the selection process in the interviews as well. We expect the cutoffs to be around 260 to 270 marks. Let us have an analysis section by section now. So as we go ahead, quantitative ability, the first section, as we had discussed, the level of difficulty was very easy because the questions were very straightforward. There were not a lot of tricks here. The questions primarily were from the arithmetic section. A lot of questions from profit loss, SICI, percentages. There were questions from ratios, averages also. TSD and time and work, time, speed, distance and time and work also had a lot of questions. There were questions, a lot of questions came in from PNC and probability as well. This is only a first impression based on the feedback that we've received initially. As we go ahead, detailed analysis would definitely be provided. Good attempts in this section would be considered to be around 32 to 34 or 35 questions. And one could have achieved a score of 95 to 110 marks. A very important detail was the ideal time that you had to assign to this section. One could have achieved these scores if they assigned around 45 minutes to this section. If we move on to the logical reasoning section had all the commonly asked questions like linear arrangements, circular arrangements, family trees, cubes, clocks and calendars, syllogisms. The verbal reasoning section had syllogisms, statement conclusions, statement assumptions, and analogy-based questions as well. Overall, good attempts in this section were around 30 to 32 because some questions had details which were slightly confusing and had to be read multiple times, which made it a little lengthy. Therefore, an attempt of 30 to 32 was possible in an ideal time of 45 minutes, and one could have scored 90 to 100 marks in this section to have a fair chance in the selection process. And if we go ahead in the verbal ability section, the section again was easy to moderate. Again, the reading comprehension, there was one RC with reading comprehension which was very small, which was less than 200 words and had 4 to 5 questions. There were 2 more RCs which had slightly more words as compared to the first one. However, the questions were very few, so there were around only 2 or 3 questions for each of the RCs, which were lengthy ones. There were a lot of questions which were based on vocabulary, like synonyms, antonyms. The word meanings were given, and you had to identify the correct word from the options. There were fill in the blanks questions wherein you had to fill in the appropriate word. Mostly these questions were based on prepositions. There were a lot of sentence correction questions also, wherein you had to spot the error. The parajumble questions were quite straightforward and could have been attempted with a good amount of accuracy. Because of the vocabulary and the lengthy RCs, one could have easily attempted 30 to 32 questions in 30 minutes. It was noteworthy that if you are very good with vocabulary, you could have attempted many more questions in this section. One could have easily scored 90 to 100 marks if you attempt 30 to 32 questions with 80% accuracy, and therefore this section has been classified as easy to moderate difficulty. Again, if we look at the overall analysis, the overall analysis was easy to moderate, and a good score can be expected to be around 285 plus. The overall cutoff is expected to be around 260 to 270 marks. Also, it is very important to note that there is no sectional cutoff. So even if one has scored less in any one of the sections and scored high in another section, it does not matter because there is no sectional cutoff. There is only overall cutoff in IIM Rohtak IPMAT. I hope this analysis was helpful, and I hope you're doing really well in your paper. Wish you all the best in your selection process at IPMAT Rohtak. All the best. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.